I'm David McAnally in Delphi. Because state police came at a pretty good clip pulling back into the cemetery where part of this investigation into the missing girls has continued this week. So at least 3 or 4 state police units back there.
The prosecutors allege an unspent bullet discovered near the bodies links Allen to the crime.
In this video, I'll be analyzing and correcting some comments made by Barbara McDonald on Court TV recently. Specifically, her claims about the unspent round being discovered days after the girls' bodies were found. It's not true. I'll also explain why Ron Logan's search warrant didn't mention the unspent round. Here's a clue. There are 2 Ron Logan search warrants, as there were 2 searches conducted on Ron Logan's property, one on March 6th and one on March 17th. You're probably most familiar with the one on March 17th, but thanks to Hannah Shakespeare, I have the one on March 6th, and I'll be sharing that search warrant with you today. Now, before I play the clip of Barbara on Court TV, keep in mind that Barb has been working on a book about how Ron Logan is a real killer, so she really doesn't want Richard Allen to be the killer, and you'll be able to see some of that bias here in the interview. Let's go.
We also know that some witnesses saw the car that appears to be his car out at the trails that day, and the .40 caliber bullet.
Yes.
The unspent round that was found between the bodies.
Right.
And my understanding is that discovery was made some days after the murder. So when the bodies were found on the 14th of February, 7 years ago tomorrow now, they did secure that crime scene for about 3 days, and they searched it, and then they cleared it for about a day, day and a half, and then they re-secured it. My understanding is that unspent shell was discovered during that second search after the scene had been re-secured.
Hold up. How come out of all of the items on the Richard Allen links to murder section, you somehow overlooked one of them, the one that mentions Allen's multiple confessions to his wife and mother on recorded prison calls? Yeah, let's just skip over the most important one. Richard Allen admitting to killing the girls, no big deal. I mean, I bet if it was Ron Logan who was confessing, it'd be important enough for you to mention. But don't you worry, Barbs, I got your back.
No less than 5 times while talking to his wife and his mother on the public jail phones.
The suspect confessed to the killings in a phone call with his wife.
Richard Allen may have made self-incriminating statements.
Stated that Allen confessed 5 or 6 times.
Made several confessions.
Admitted to killing Abigail Williams and Libby German.
Okay, let's back up just a little.
The unspent round that was found between the bodies.
So notice how Barb acknowledges that the bullet casing was found in between the girls' bodies. That's because in the Richard Allen arrest documents, it does say this: clothes were found in the Deer Creek belonging to victim 1 and victim 2, south of where their bodies were located. There was also a .40 caliber unspent round less than 2 feet away from victim 2's body, between victim 1 and victim 2's bodies. The round was unspent and had extraction marks in it. So for me, and I think for anyone who doesn't have an agenda, it's pretty obvious that the bullet was found the same day the girls' bodies were discovered. It was found in between them. So since they're using the girls' bodies as a way to measure and specify where the unspent round was found, it's safe to infer that the unspent round was found while the girls' bodies were still present at the crime scene, which was on February 14th, 2017, not days after that.
The bodies were found on the 14th of February, 7 years ago tomorrow now. They did secure that crime scene for about 3 days, and they searched it, and then they cleared it for about a day, day and a half, and then they re-secured it. My understanding is that unspent shell was discovered during that second search after the scene had been re-secured.
I'm about to show you a video clip, and it probably explains why Barbara is so confused and why she thinks that law enforcement had an unsecured crime scene, then went back to it and then found the bullet on February 17th, but that is incorrect.
Friday evening, state police hurry into the cemetery, returning to the crime scene. Undercover officers did some work and left about 20 minutes later. The same time, troopers checking out a car left at the High Bridge trailhead. Turned out to be a woman and kids out walking. Shows the high pace of police activity that'll go through the weekend, they say.
The scene was not re-secured. It was actually still secured on the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, etc. But more importantly, Law enforcement didn't go back to collect a bullet at the crime scene. They were at the crime scene because there were suspicious vehicles there. And the officers that went to the crime scene were undercover police officers. And they were there for about 20 minutes. And that's a short amount of time. If they found a bullet, you would think they would spend more time and go get metal detectors and see if any other bullets could be detected. And why would they send undercover cops to go look for a bullet? Wouldn't they send some CSI personnel? So yes, law enforcement was there at the crime scene on February 17th, but it had nothing to do with the bullet. So Barbara McDonald is claiming the bullet casing was found days later after the girls' bodies were found. And I assume she means February 17th, but that wouldn't make sense because on February 16th, they searched Jim Maxwell's house and they took away some of his guns, according to Tara German. And I also had this verified from another person close to the investigation.
That breaking news tonight is in the investigation into the murder of two girls in Delphi. Just hours ago, police surrounded this home as they moved in to search a warrant. It comes as they make another plea for answers about the identity of this man who could have information that could help them solve the case.
So they obviously knew it was a .40 caliber shell casing because they had to know what type of guns to look for during the search. And remember, they also confiscated Brad Weber's .40 caliber Sig Sauer right after the girls' bodies were found. And those are the reasons I believe that the bullet shell casing was discovered on February 14th, 2017, and not days later. Now let's talk about why the bullet casing wasn't on Ron Logan's search warrant. Did you know the search warrant that everyone's familiar with was actually the second search conducted on Ron Logan's property? That's right. There are actually two search warrants. One that took place on March 6th, 2017, and then there was one that was released to the public that you might be familiar with, which was a search warrant that was conducted on March 17th, 2017. So thanks to Hannah Shakespeare, I have both of those search warrants, as well as a police report that gives the backstory to this. But briefly, I want to point out that the reason that the bullet isn't mentioned on the March 17th search warrant is because they already searched and seized Ron Logan's guns on March 6th. So they had no reason to mention the bullet casing on the second search warrant, because keep in mind that search warrants have to be given to the person who the property gets searched, and then it becomes a public document, and Ron Logan could then do whatever he wants with the search warrant. And if that information about the unspent .40 caliber round got out back in 2017, then the real perpetrator would have gotten rid of their gun. So it would be a bonehead move to mention something that doesn't need to be mentioned, because there's the risk of the actual perpetrator destroying evidence. And also keep in mind that a search warrant does not need to mention every piece of evidence that law enforcement has. The primary requirement for a search warrant is that it must establish probable cause to believe that evidence of a crime will be found at the place to be searched. All right, here's the backstory. So this was written by Indiana State Police Detective A.J. Smith. When Logan finished his polygraph, I went upstairs to get him. We went out to my car so I could take him home. As soon as we got into the car, Logan said, "Between you and me, the reason I don't want anyone searching my home is because I am on probation and I have guns." When asked to elaborate, Logan stated that he had a .45 caliber Ruger and a .357 Rossi in his bedroom. Logan said that his probation ends soon and he does not want to screw up. When I left Logan's house, I returned to the command center and advised several officers what Logan said to me about the guns. I left the command center and received a call later from Detective Liggett at 1912 hours. He told me that I needed to go to the prosecutor's office to sign a search warrant for Logan's residence. I went to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office and assisted with finishing up a search warrant. Once it was complete, I went with Prosecutor Robert Ives to the judge's residence for his signature. Once that was signed, we went to the command center and gave it to an investigator that relayed it to Logan's house where a search would be conducted. So on March 6th, they searched Ron Logan's house, and they actually referenced this March 6th search in the March 17th search warrant. Logan owns numerous weapons, including handguns and knives that were observed by LEOs during the execution of a search warrant that took place at his home on March 6, 2017. Logan's home was searched as a result of a probation violation. The search was limited to the discovery of firearms and included only his main residence. So to be clear, Ron Logan is a felon. Therefore, law enforcement does not need a reason or an excuse to search his guns. They don't need to have a bullet or a reason listed in a search warrant. They could just search his guns because he's not supposed to have any guns because he's a felon. Sorry, Barb, I know you want to leave the door open for a grand conspiracy or some corruption for the sake of your Ron Logan book, but you're going to have to try a little bit harder. And real quick on how you presented the missing links that make Rick Allen look innocent. I don't know if it was dishonest or being negligent, but I'm sure you know that the prosecution has turned over at least 2 more rounds of discovery since that 136-page Frank's Memorandum Manifesto. But since you like what it says in there, you stick with that. In those 2 additional rounds of discovery, there could have been evidence that makes your claims invalid, but you conveniently leave out the fact that you're quoting an outdated source of information without letting your audience know that everything you said needs a huge caveat, that more evidence has been turned over and it could possibly change the evidence against Richard Allen. Well, I hope this video was helpful. This has been the reasons why I think the bullet casing was discovered the same day the bodies were discovered, and why there's no mention of the unspent round on Ron Logan's second search warrant. So take care, everyone, and thanks for watching.